That same summer, the Southern Pacific built a short line railway between Fernley, Nevada and Klamath Falls, Oregon, cutting off a 300-mile haul from Oregon to points east. I'll show you how these two great events dovetailed and came together. 70 miles of this roadbed ran through Pyramid Lake, Indian Reservation, and of course there wasn't a saloon allowed within 5 miles of the reservation line. The 20-mile house had burned down in 1911, but the county had kept up the well as long as there was any horse and buggy travel. Now an old madam from Sacramento with an eye in business came and leased 20-mile house. She put up a saloon, built some cribs, and installed a group of prostitutes. They did a land office business from the start. There were 600 men in the road crew, and there was always a bunch of them willing to walk the 16 miles to a roadhouse for entertainment. They'd get drunk and stay till they spent their paychecks, and then walk back. There was no other transportation. All that summer before my baby was born, I hated to pass the new 20-mile house. There were drunks of all description lying around. Dead drunks, shoot-'em-up drunks, and happy drunks. None of them ever molested me in any way, although the porch of the saloon came out over the well curb, and when I went to draw water for my horse, I was halfway in the saloon door. One morning, one of the girls came out and talked to me. It was the only time I'd ever knowingly talked to a prostitute, and I felt disgraced for life. Afterward, I was glad I had had the conversation with her, though it was mostly one-sided, for she did all the talking. Daddy was afraid our baby would be born on the mountain with him for midwife. I think that's where the shoe really pinched, that he ushered me off to town a full month before the baby was due. While he was urging me to go, a friend of ours came out in a brand new car, which made a convenient way for me without Daddy in for me without Daddy having to hitch up the wagon and take me in, leaving the children alone for 3 days. It was the first time our friend had ever driven a car without an instructor along, and our road from 20-mile house out was very poor. In fact, it was almost impassable for a car. Some motoring enthusiasts had erected a sign at the forks in the road pointing our way. It read, "From here on, this road is only a cow trail, and a damn poor one at that." Our friend was so afraid the old stork would catch up with us that he tried to drive carefully. The foot of each hill was a wash with a little gully crossing the road. Our friend would shift into low, go slow, kill his engine, back down, get out, crank up, and start all over again with the same result. On the third try, he'd get angry, swear a little, and turn on lots of gas, which would take us bumpity-bump to the top. This performance was repeated with each hill, but we finally arrived at the maternity hospital all in one piece. I had been there a little over a month when my baby girl was born. We named her Martha, and she was the first baby I'd ever had who was issued a birth certificate immediately after her birth. It was 3 weeks before I had a chance to go home, and AJ was reluctant to leave the children alone to come after me, so he waited for me to get a chance ride. That fall, Hi was building a barn, and he'd come in for a 4-horse load of timber. He called me up the night before he left for home, saying, "If you think you're strong enough to ride home on a load of lumber, you can ride out with me tomorrow." I stood there with the phone in my hand. "Oh, yes, I'm strong enough. I can make it. I'll go Hi." "Hold on a minute now. I have a heavy load and can't make it all in one day. We'll have to stop at 20-mile house. I have my bedroll, and I can roll that under the wagon, but what the hell do I do with you and the baby?" I stood there on the phone with my brother, dancing from one foot to the other, thinking, what will I do? What will I do? I wanted to get home so badly. I knew my children needed me, as their father was never apt at taking care of them. Besides, it was now the middle of October, and our school must start by the 1st of November. The house would need cleaning, and the children would be ragged and dirty. I had to get home. All these thoughts went through my mind in much less time than it takes to tell them. I decided to go, come what may. "All right, Hi. If you stop for me, I'll go." One of the prostitutes had told me one morning what a good, kind boss the madam was. She was so kind, she said to all those girls. Well, she could just be good and kind to me for one night. She could put a cot in the kitchen for me to sleep on. Besides, I thought to myself, no one will harm a woman with a 3-weeks-old baby. Hi stopped for me the next morning just at daylight, and I climbed aboard with the expectation of taking a 35-mile ride on the top of a load of lumber. It was a dead-X wagon, one without any springs. I also faced the prospect of staying all night in a house of prostitution, but I was headed for home and my babies, and nothing could daunt me. I was feeling very happy and kept singing the old cowboy song, going home, where the coyotes howl and the cattle roam. I was doing fine for the first 10 miles, but then I began to weaken. My shoulders began to slump, and black waves passed before my eyes. I thought sure I was going to faint, and wondered if I fell off my high perch on the wagon if it would kill the baby and me. I hung on to the jockey box with all my might. The box is a receptacle built in the middle of the freight wagon to hold small tools, such as monkey wrenches, hammers, and horseshoeing outfits. Just then an outfit pulled out around us. It was entirely a one-way road, so in meeting or passing, someone had to drive out in the rocks and sagebrush to get around. This fellow was driving a team, hitched to a surrey, the old-fashioned kind with the fringe on top, pulling a single-seated buggy tied behind. He waved for us to stop. He had a road map spread out on his lap, which showed the forks in the road at 20 Mile House. He explained to us he was a salesman for a Studebaker Carriage Manufacturing Company, and that his company had shipped a load of carriages to Reno. Finding everyone there automobile-minded, he had ordered their salesman to hire a team, hooking on all the carriages he could, and drive out into the back country to sell those for anything he could get. I've often wondered at the loss those carriage companies must have taken at the advent of the automobile. He wanted to know of us which road had the most population. I piped up and said the left-hand road. It was really true, for our road had 2 families living on it in the next 30 miles, and the other road only had 1. I asked him if I could ride with him. No matter which road he decided to take, I would have an easy 10-mile ride to 20 Mile House, but I made my mind up then to have his mind made up on going my way by the time we reached the forks in the road. I managed it. We trotted right past the house, never stopping, thus missing the only chance I ever had to spend the night in a house of prostitution. It was late in the evening when we arrived at our place. I began to call "woohoo" since we turned in at the gate. The children heard my call, and ragged and dirty as I had thought, they all came running down to meet me. But they were all healthy. Daddy had done a good job taking care of him, and I couldn't complain at a little dirt.